Baseball is back, and at Team Toyota, savings and selection are back too. With tons of new Toyota SUVs, trucks, and hybrids to choose from, and with our lineup of over 200 certified used Toyotas, you can find the right fit for you and your budget. Plus, our service and collision centers are here to get you back in the game in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Princeton, Langhorne, or Glen Mills, or online at teamtoyota.net.
Welcome into the Phillies Talk podcast. I am Spencer McKercher. It is currently 1:25 a.m. on Friday morning. The Phillies just lost the series finale down in Atlanta about 25 minutes or so ago. Early Friday morning, a long, almost 3-hour rain delay on Thursday kind of pushed everything back. However, Corey and I did sit down during the rain delay to talk about this incredible series between these two division rivals. So a lot of the conversation kind of is based on the Tuesday and Wednesday game. However, we do kind of allude that the game probably would get canned, but however, they waited it out. And Marcell Ozuna decided to take Joe Rossiard in the bottom of the 11th inning on Friday morning. So enjoy the conversation, a great series, and we'll catch you guys on Sunday after the St. Louis series. Rain, go away, baby. For the first time this season, the Phillies are in a rain delay. So me and Corey Seidman are here on the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. Corey, we just were talking about it. Yeah, first rain delay of the season. We're recording this right around 9 o'clock on Thursday during the series finale down in Atlanta. It's been a fun series, but the rain kind of messed up a heck of a pitching matchup between Jesus Luzardo and Spencer Schwellenbach.
Yeah, and the big story on Thursday was that Alec Bohm was moved down in the lineup, moved down from cleanup to 7th. Not really surprising because he had been struggling so much for his last 35 without a Walker extra base hit since a pair of multi-hit games at the beginning of the season. And Bohm was clearly pressing. I mean, it seemed like he was thinking a lot at the plate. And Rob Thompson, his comment on Thursday afternoon was that he thought this is a chance to kind of like reset Bohm, to get him into autopilot was his quote. Stop thinking, just react, just go out and play. Bohm in his first 3 at-bats on Thursday night, he lined out hard. He grounded out into a double play, and he grounded out to first base, and he grounded out into a double play back to the mound. So, not a good night for him to begin on Thursday. But the Phillies' next stop after Atlanta is St. Louis, which is near his hometown of Omaha. He always performs in St. Louis, a .340 hitter there with power, better numbers there than anywhere else. So maybe that's good timing for Alec Bohm. But, a part of this too is that Nick Castellanos is hitting in the early going. He moves up to the cleanup spot. He's hitting over 300. So, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Bohm. You're right. Luzardo looked really good, though, on Thursday. These were difficult conditions, pouring rain for his last 2 innings especially, but he was able to get the Phillies through 6 innings on a night when they knew they had to play fast. As we're sitting here right now, we don't know whether this Phillies Braves game is going to resume this night or it's going to have to be resumed later in the season when the Phillies go to Atlanta at the end of June. But if the Phils do pull out this series, it'll be the first time ever that they've won their first 4 series of the season of at least 2 games. So they're off to a good start. I know there's some positives and there's some negatives, but they continue to execute late in games, and they look like a really good team. That's what good teams do. They're able to pull out wins when they shouldn't, and they're able to win those nail biters.
And Bryce Harper and Rob Thompson mentioned that after the win on Wednesday. Just they have beaten the teams in the games that they should have won, they've won, and they've also had these battle-back games, especially on Friday night against the Dodgers last weekend at home, and then on Wednesday night as well. Like you said, Luzardo, man, he just continues to impress. He allowed 6 hits, but only that 1 run in the first inning. But he has 6 Ks now. That's 25 on the season, which is the tied for the major league lead in 3 starts. So Luzardo continues to impress. Do you want to touch on Wednesday? I guess we'll move on from the Thursday game. As you mentioned, if they do pick it up, I think it was like June 27th is the next time they're in Atlanta. So we'll have to see if this game either gets going. It doesn't look great right now. Right. I'm sure if you're listening to this the next morning, it's either canceled when they're going to play in June or not.
Well, and this is also a difficult stretch for the Phillies because they're in the midst of 16 games and 16 nights. This is night 3 of it, and they have to get on a plane to St. Louis after this series in Atlanta. So the starters are not going to have extra days. The relievers are going to be taxed all throughout this. Wednesday night it stuck out that the Phillies had to use Joe Ross and Jose Ruiz to cover 3 innings of relief. They ended up using Ross, Ruiz, and Jose Alvarado for 4 1/3 innings behind Taijuan Walker, and that's because the bullpen has just been used so much early on. Phillies threw 11 games this season. Matt Strom's appeared 6 times. Jose Alvarado's appeared 6 times. and you have Orion Kerkering, Jordan Romano, and Jose Ruiz who have appeared 5 times apiece. So that puts all of them on pace for like 80 appearances, something in that range. And that's just not something teams do in the modern era anymore. And I asked Rob Thompson on Thursday afternoon, like, last year Jeff Hoffman led the team with 68 appearances. Strom was at 66. Is that what you see as the top end of what you want your relievers to, the top end of their appearance number? Or could you see a guy get to 75? And Tom said, no, he wants to keep those guys in the 60s because remember, it's not about April 10th. It's not about May 10th. It's about October 10th, right? Last year, the Phillies bullpen was awesome for 5 out of 6 months, the majority of the season. But in the NLDS, they struggled, so you want to make sure those guys are as fresh as possible come the first week of October. But, early on here, starting rotation is doing its job. Taijuan Walker, 4 2/3 scoreless, bent but didn't break. He was in a couple jams, but he has enough velocity right now that he can miss a few bats. He's throwing 93, 94 miles per hour. I'm encouraged by what I've seen so far out of Taijuan Walker, who figures to make at least 3 more starts here in place of Ranger Suarez, who did begin a rehab assignment on Thursday.
Yeah, and I think if you would have told us that Taijuan Walker hasn't allowed a run in his first 2 starts of the season, if you said that in March, if you said it in October of last season, leading up to this season, we probably would have been shaking our heads. But here we are, and I believe you asked him last night in the clubhouse too, just like, are you gaining confidence, especially when he gets out of those big jams? He got out a bases loaded jam in the 3rd. They got out, I think, runners on 1st and 2nd, or 2nd and 3rd too. He got out some big jams on Wednesday, and that confidence starts to grow a little bit more. And he even said that. He's like, yeah, his stuff felt great last night on Wednesday, but just getting out of those big jams can boost your confidence like crazy, can it?
Well, yeah, and I mean, there's a difference between trusting your stuff and then throwing a pitch and just hoping it doesn't get hit 430 feet. Like last year, Taijuan Walker didn't have a pitch that could miss a bat. His bread and butter has been a splitter, but last season he couldn't command other pitches to make hitters swing at the splitter. They were just laying off the splitter and going after an 88, 89 mile per hour fastball and doing major damage. But at 93, 94, he has the ability to get away with a lot more. And I asked him last night after our on-camera interview ended, I asked him about the first inning at bat against Ozzie Albies on Wednesday night, because he threw a pitch to Albies on a 2-strike count that was like a sinker up and in, 2-seamer that came back over the middle of the plate because it had so much movement. And it came back over like the center of the plate high in the zone, so it almost looked like a mistake. But Ozzie Albies swung through it for a strikeout. So I asked Walker, like, did you consider that pitch a mistake, or were you happy with that pitch? And he said, it's an example of the additional velocity giving him more wiggle room, that if he threw that pitch last year, it might have had the movement, but at 88, 89 miles per hour, Ozzie Albies might have laced that for a line drive single. So it's just like, that shows you the difference, right? He also, commanded the splitter, got guys to chase with it. And this is big. All that matters is that he keeps the Phillies in games, Taijuan Walker. If he makes 5 starts, 6 starts, or whatever. Ranger Suarez pitched 3 scoreless innings to begin his rehab assignment on Thursday with Clearwater. His velocity was 92, which is right in line with his career norms. So Suarez, who did not have much of a spring training, through just 5 innings in Grapefruit League games. He did have 1 other short start on the backfields, but you figure he's going to need like 3 more starts in the minors, maybe 4. He needs like a full workload before the Phillies bring him up. But they feel comfortable knowing they can send Taijuan Walker out there a few more times, a handful more times, and that they're not going to see disaster.
Yeah, and that's, again, if you would have said that, I mean, it's a huge chip on the Phillies' shoulder right now that they can rely on Taijuan Walker. Yes, it's only been 2 starts, but it's a good sign. Kind of going back to the bullpen too, I know you mentioned it. We talked about it all offseason too, where you want to get to October healthy. And that kind of started with maybe Zach Wheeler, Jesus Luzardo, Christopher Sanchez not going as deep into games. And we really haven't seen anyone really go that deep into a game yet this season. That's such a tough battle for Rob Thompson, right? Like, you have to rely on your bullpen. You can't let these guys, like you said, get to 80 appearances. You want to keep them around that 65 to 70 range. But if these guys aren't going as long, because you also want to you want to keep this bullpen just as healthy, right?
Yeah, I think some of it's circumstantial. Like, it's still early in the season. If Zach Wheeler was cruising, for example, the first night in Atlanta, maybe the Phillies would have sent him out for 7 innings to help preserve the bullpen a little bit. But I just think we're going to see fewer of those 8 inning starts, fewer complete games this year. Just because, like, I think last year was an example that that fatigue doesn't always show up during the season. Like, you don't always see the results of that 8 inning start the next time out. Like, you see the result of that at the end of the season when guys have been throwing for 8 straight months and they've exceeded 200 innings, or relievers are up to like 70 appearances. Like, that's when it really, factors in. the Braves are a good example of this. Like, the Braves have a pretty bad bullpen. Like, they have one guy they can trust in Raisel Iglesias. They didn't really add much in the offseason. They're relying on a bunch of guys who they just like are crossing their fingers and hope perform this year. Whereas the Phillies have a couple guys that they feel really confident in right now. Matt Strahm, Jose Alvarado, Orion Kerkering. I know that Kerkering's outing in Atlanta this week wasn't great, but the key is just going to be getting Jordan Romano back to some semblance of effectiveness, because right now it's almost like the Phillies are a man short in their bullpen. They haven't been using Romano the last few days. Rob Thompson is curious to see the next time Romano goes out whether the velocity is up to his prior levels, because he thinks that maybe the reason that Romano's stuff was down in his last outing is because it was him appearing 3 times in the span of 4 days after not pitching at all in the second half last season with the Blue Jays, recovering from an injury. So maybe that played a role. But the Phillies entered this season thinking they had 4 core relievers, and that's probably been reduced by 1 already. You might, like, Joe Ross might have already kind of pushed a little bit ahead of Romano, in the meantime here. But that's a big piece of this all. It helps that you have Strahm and Alvarado. I mean, Alvarado especially looks like the best version of himself ever. I mean, the fastball, the cutter, the slider, the physically, mentally, he's in a great mood. He's in great shape, best shape that he's been in really the last couple of years. And he said on Wednesday night that it's big for him that he now kind of knows what his role is. Like, last year, there were times he was 5th or 6th on the bullpen depth chart. There were times he was coming into games in the 6th inning, whereas now he knows he's either going to be the last lefty out of the bullpen or the second to last lefty out of the bullpen. He knows he's appearing in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning.
And he picked up pretty much right where his spring left off. Man, he looked good. And especially on Wednesday, he came in just throwing gas. He gets the 4-out save. He threw 30 pitches. I guess he picked up the win technically because Trea went yard in the 9th. But Jose Alvarado, we can't speak enough about him. And it's so funny, Bryce Harper's comments after the game on Wednesday too, was just, he just started laughing, thinking about how much joy Jose Alvarado has when he's on the mound. He let out a good scream when he struck out Sean Murphy to end the game on Wednesday as well. And he comes in, I mean, he threw 3 pitches, 100 plus against Murphy there to end it. And it just, with movement and everything too. So,
and Alvarado told us after that game that he had more than 10 cups of coffee throughout the day on Wednesday, which is his standard. But it boggles the mind. If I have 1, I'm jittery and can't get to sleep. I can't imagine how this guy crashes at the end of the night. But
he has the tattoo that says "Coffee is life" right on his hand and stuff. And if you I was gonna say, I couldn't drink, dude. If I drink 2 cups of coffee, I drink 1 and I'm that probably is way too much for me. 10 is crazy, dude. But he's saying at least now he understands though, where he can start drinking his coffee because he knows that he's going to be in those late game situations too. Right. So he's kind of planned out his coffee schedule.
Yeah. And the Phillies are hoping that Alec Bohm's bat perks up a little bit here. You like that? Alec Bohm, I think, it's worth pointing out that while he is struggling, and while the last 2 games, Wednesday and Thursday, have been pretty ugly, Wednesday went 0 for 5 with 4 Ks. If you look at the data, you don't even have to dig that deep. He has the hardest hit rate of his career right now. So it's very early, so the data can fluctuate very wildly one day to the next. But he has the hardest hit rate of his career, and he has the hardest barrel percentage of his career, meaning like at bats that end with you putting the barrel of the bat on the ball. Results matter more than all that, I know, but I'm just saying it to say that 9 times this season already, Bohm has either lined out or flied out to deep center or right center. So that's 9 hard-hit balls that have all gone for outs. That's 1/5 of his plate appearances so far this season. So A, you understand why there's frustration on his part. And B, if I wrote this, but if 3 of those balls fell in, right? If only 3 of them fell in, he's hitting 65 points higher. He's hitting 250 as opposed to 175, right? Which is still not great. That's still below his standard. But the league average on line drives is somewhere around like 630 every year. And Alec Bohm is well below that this year. So there's going to be some normalization. He's going to regress in a positive way. Rob Thompson said that his message to Bohm on Thursday was, you had 97 RBIs last year. You were an all-star third baseman. You had a high batting average. They still have faith in him. They still have confidence in him. It's not like they think he's a shell of the player he used to be, or that it's all negative from here. It's just that he's off to a slow start. And when you combine the slow start with the trade rumors and the way last season ended, there's a lot of noise back home in Philadelphia. I know that. I know people are calling for the Phillies to do drastic things, but Alec Bohm's their guy at third base, and the best version of this team has him at third base hitting, producing with runners in scoring position, even though he hasn't here in the first couple of weeks.
And Rob Thompson mentioned that on Wednesday, even before his comments on Thursday. He's the all-star starting third baseman for the National League, last year. And I know with Alec, right? That the whole thing has been like mentally, obviously trying to get back into it. He had a rough offseason. This spring, he said that he's kind of ready. He feels good to be back in the same clubhouse as he has been his entire career. He's going to get out of it. And you said, yeah, like you said, everyone in Philadelphia is kind of like already given up on this guy, and they're 11 games in. He's going to find it, just like Trea Turner found it right on Wednesday as well. Trea, after the game, he hits the go-ahead home run in the 9th. He talked a lot about he hit a lot of balls hard so far this season, but just like Bohm, he's found a lot of gloves instead of some grass. But man, that home run for Trea Turner had to feel good on Wednesday to give the Phillies a 4-3 lead. Bryce Harper talked about he was in the on-deck circle and gave a pretty big fist pump just to see Trea get a ball over the fence for his first home run of the season. I'm sure you've seen the clip by now. Ricky Bo pretty much predicted Bryce Harper to go yard because he kind of mentioned it's a guy that really hasn't gotten going yet. He hit the home run on opening day in Washington, then he hasn't really gotten going, but we know that that's going to come, and it came in a big spot there on Wednesday as well. But him giving the fist bump to Trea going yard, this is a good sign as well for the Phillies that their 2-star players are starting to get going. And of course, we'll get to it here. We have to talk about the Berrien, but we'll start with Trea and Bryce too. It's a good sign that these guys are kind of heating up in Atlanta because which the stat that I didn't really realize too, Bryce didn't go yard in Atlanta last season at all.
Yeah, I don't think he had an RBI against the Braves last year. Is that possible? It's just crazy to think about. But
now he has 16 home runs at Truist Park, right?
And the funny thing, too, is that Harper almost got ejected in the first inning of that game on Wednesday night because the home plate umpire called a pitch that was a full ball and a half below the zone. He called it a strike on Bryce Harper, and Harper knew it was not a strike. And, had some quick words with the umpire, but he stayed in. Obviously, he was not ejected. He ended up walking in that plate appearance and homering later, but it just shows the importance of Bryce Harper staying in the game, right? And with Trea Turner, the pitch that he got from Raisel Iglesias was like a true cement mixer. It was an 84-mile-per-hour slider down the middle of the plate that absolutely did not move. It did nothing. Trea Turner did something with it. He hit it 402 feet. He's had some success against Iglesias, so has Harper. Bodes well because I mentioned that Iglesias is like the only proven effective reliever in this Braves bullpen. You know that Harper's going to get going. You know that he's going to hit 300 and have a 390 on base and have his high home run and double totals. Trea Turner, it's been interesting so far this season. He's walked 6 times already. So he hasn't been I wouldn't say he's been super selective because he still has that at-bats where he's really chased. I mean, you go back to Wednesday night, the first inning against Grant Holmes, Trea Turner swung at every pitch outside the strike zone, a bunch of sliders outside the zone, struck himself out, but was able to make in-game adjustments throughout the night. He ended up walking. He ended up singling. He ended up hitting that homer. And if Turner can just be a little bit more selective, that goes a long way. This is a guy who usually walks around, 45 times a season. If that can increase to 60, if the on-base percentage is closer to 340, 350 as opposed to 315 or 320, it makes a huge difference. So I think also we're seeing these guys settle into their lineup spots, like Schwarber at the top against righties, Turner at the top against lefties. Turner made a comment on Wednesday night that for him, it's helpful that he knows that it's not performance-based, that it's just strictly lefty-righty now, that, if you have 3 bad games, if you go 0 for 12, you don't have to worry about moving down in the lineup. So I think that that's a big part of this all. And Kyle Schwarber's been hitting no matter where the Phillies put him, first, second, fourth. The guy's just on fire. And every single one of these big bombs is probably going to increase the price tag of that next contract for Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, and especially with Kyle too, man. He's just continues to impress. The contract that I hope the Phillies can eventually get a contract done, a contract extension for Schwarber. Now after the home run on Thursday, he homered on Tuesday as well, but he now has 6 on the year, 12 RBIs in the season as well. The 6 home runs are tied with Aaron Judge and Tyler Soderstrom from the A's. So he's there, man. And the contract that he could get could be a big one. Either hopefully it's with the Phillies, or you never know, another team might come along here. But
and the Phillies, when they go to St. Louis, they're going to see some mediocre pitching. I think they see Andre Palante in game 1, Miles Michaelis in game 2, who does not miss bats, Matt Liberatore in game 3. So shaping up could be another big offensive series for Schwarber. The guy is just on one right now. And it's just astonishing the production he's had against left-handed pitching since the start of last season. It's 320 with a 430 on base and a 550 slug. It's elite numbers against same-handed pitching. And this is a guy who made that adjustment at age 31. He's been better as a Philly than he's been anywhere else. And I could totally see another team swooping in and trying to make like a big time overpay for Kyle Schwarber, not just because of the production, but because of the leadership ability too. Like I think back to like Jason Worth, for example, back after he emerged as a Philly in the Nationals, gave him that 7-year, $126 million contract because they not only wanted Worth's production, but they wanted his leadership and proven winning ability and all that. And so I think that there's a lot of teams that are going to look at Kyle Schwarber like that. So from a Phillies perspective, obviously it behooves them if they can get this done ahead of free agency, but it's not going to be simple. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take, I would think, at least 4 years again. So he's outperformed this deal, and hopefully another one gets done.
That he has, yeah. If 4 years ago, if you would have told me that this is the production that we would have got out of a Kyle Schwarber at the age that he is, I would have also bet my money that it wasn't going to be this good. Hopefully he can continue it. You mentioned the Cardinal series starting in St. Louis on Friday night. Then there's a pair of 2:15 games on Saturday and Sunday this weekend in St. Louis. Should be fun. They're not playing their best baseball right now, but hopefully the Phillies can take care of business in St. Louis. Hopefully they can figure out this game. Like I said, by the time you're probably listening to this, the decision has been made. However, if it is in June, or if the Phillies can pull out a win, they would improve to 9-3, which ties the franchise mark best since 2011, which we know what that 2011 team did when a franchise record 102 games. Not saying that's going to happen, but you never know.
And I mean, regardless of whether that happens or not, it just reminds you that like this is one of the best teams in baseball. It reminds you of their standing in the National League. It's not like they've played cupcake games so far. They've played the Dodgers. They've faced a hungry Braves team that started out poorly and is desperate for wins. Also, pretty sure that after the Dodgers left Philadelphia, they went to Washington, and didn't the Nationals beat them twice?
I think so. Yeah.
It's not like that Nationals team stinks.
Who's
been playing pretty well early. They've been executing late in games. This is the rotation that they thought that they'd have, and they're getting healthier. Ranger Suarez beginning the rehab assignment Thursday. Andrew Painter making his first minor league start in 2.5 years on Friday. Weston Wilson's also been playing most of the week in the minors as he rehabs an oblique strain. So things are looking up for the Phils, and that series in St. Louis, it does look pretty winnable, especially when you look at the pitching matchups.
Yeah, Nola, Sanchez, Wheeler, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Hopefully Aaron Nola can bounce back and get a win here as well. So for Corey Seidman down in Atlanta, stay dry, my brother. Hopefully these storms, it sounds terrible, but hopefully these storms pass through and you get home safe and to St. Louis safe. We'll see you in St. Louis. We'll catch you guys next Sunday after the series finale in St. Louis. So for Corey Seidman, I'm Spencer McKercher. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.